Bad breaks are an extremely unfortunate part of bowling, but there's nothing worse than getting a horrible break at the wrong time during a match. In this video, we're going to look at some examples where a player had a bad break at the end of the match, and in many of these cases it was in the 10th frame when a player needed a strike to win. All of these matches took place in PBA telecasts, and there will definitely be some familiar faces. So let's jump straight in with number 1, Ryan Ciminelli. Ryan Ciminelli is an 8-time winner on the PBA Tour and a former US Open champion. We're going to rewind back to the 2013 World Series of Bowling at the Viper Championship. And just a little fun fact, I believe this was actually the first time they started to use the blue oil that's now used regularly on television. Ryan Ciminelli was the number 1 seed and ended up facing Chris Barnes, who defeated Stuart Williams in match 2. Ciminelli led for basically the entire match, but Barnes did manage to cut Ciminelli's lead to just 5 pins after a double in the 8th and 9th frames. Ciminelli struck in the 9th frame and now needed a strike and 8 pins in the 10th to capture the title.
Light and a 7-10 split.
Well, you heard Ryan say it. This was a bad shot. He missed off of his hand.
Now, I don't necessarily class this 7-10 leave as a bad break because it was very light and ultimately it just wasn't a great shot in comparison to the previous ball. However, what we're about to see next, I feel, is definitely a very bad break.
Oh my, just missed. Kicked it out all the way across the pin deck.
That was close.
Even though it wasn't the best shot, he was still unfortunate to leave the 7-10, and he came about as close as you can to actually sparing it. So overall, I think this does constitute a bad break just because of how close he got to actually making the conversion. Barnes still had work to do, however, as he needed a strike and 6 pins for the win, and he put down a fantastic shot to strike, and this gave Barnes his 16th PBA title. Number 2, Walter Ray Williams Jr. Next up is another classic PBA moment that I'm sure many of you will remember well. It happened during the 2009 National Bowling Stadium Championship. Patrick Allen had run the ladder to get to the title match where he faced the 1 seed Walter Ray. This tournament used dual patterns. The shark pattern was on the left lane, which at the time was the PBA's longest pattern, and the right lane would have the then shortest pattern, the cheetah. Patrick Allen had killed it throughout the show and continued to perform well in the title match. Fast forward to the 10th frame and Allen finished on a 225, which meant that Walter Ray needed 2 strikes in the 10th frame to win. As you can see, he got the first strike, and now his second shot, if he strikes he wins, if he goes 9 spare then we have a tie. And by leaving the 8-10 he lost the match, and this was a very bad break in the sense that although it wasn't the best shot, leaving both the 8 and 10 standing was incredibly harsh. I actually did a video on the entire telecast where I broke down each match, including the title match, and then did a deep dive into Walter's final shot to find out exactly why he left the 8-10 and to debate whether this truly was a bad break or not. If you're interested in watching that video, you can click on the link above. Number 3, Chris Barnes. We saw Barnes at the start of this video in number 1, but this time he's on the receiving end of a very bad break. It was at the 2009 US Open during match number 3 against lefty Mike Scroggins. Barnes looked great on the left lane, striking every time, but could not carry at all on the right lane. In fact, he was on for a Dutch 200 game. Even though Barnes had problems with the right lane, he was still right in the match, and after Scroggins bowled his 10th frame, the scores were even, and Barnes was working on a strike, so another strike would see him advance to the title match. The problem was, he had yet to strike on this lane the entire match. Let's watch what happened.
So Barnes must strike to move on. Betrayed by the 8-pin.
Got to have all 10. And all I can say is I'm absolutely speechless from the solid 8-pin that Chris Barnes just left. That shot was absolutely perfect. Coming to you from a guy that knows a thing or two about leaving solid 8s, that ball was perfect. Now, he must have all 10 right here. Has yet to strike. That last shot was absolutely perfect. I promise you, he throws this next shot the same exact way. We'll have a tie.
And a roll-off.
Moves on. Wow.
I think this 9-pin leave ranks up there with one of the worst breaks of all time on television, and the fact that he threw a pretty decent shot with a chance to force a roll-off but still couldn't strike on that lane just made it all that much worse. He could just not carry whatever he did on this lane, and this was an absolutely terrible break. Mike Scroggins advanced, and I don't think he could believe that he won this match, and went on to defeat Norm Duke in the title match. Number 4, Randy Pedersen. Now over to Randy, and yes, I know it's probably the most famous bad break, but I felt I couldn't not include it. I think we all probably know the story by now, as Randy has mentioned it a few times over the years. Randy needs to strike and get 6 pins to win the Touring Players Championship, so let's just sit back and watch what happened. But before we do this is going to bring an end to this video. So I'd just like to thank you all for watching so far. And if you have enjoyed this video but have yet to subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you could just go ahead and click the subscribe button below. As always, thank you bowling fans, and see you all next time.
Well, there's the graphic. The strike is the big one. Wasted no time at all. Let's hope Bernie doesn't have any heart problems.